who determines what is an authentic expression of Judaism? This question is actually very difficult to answer. There are some who say, look at history. History determines what is authentic and what is not. But I don't believe that's an appropriate answer at all, because if we were to say that, we would have to say that biblical Judaism was not an authentic expression of Judaism because it no longer survived. Survival can't be the proof of authenticity. So there are those who say, well, rabbinic Judaism grew out of biblical Judaism, and therefore it is the continuation of it. But there were others who said differently. The Essenes and the Samaritans said that they were authentic expressions of Judaism, branching from biblical Judaism. And even though they, particularly the Essenes, did not survive, that doesn't mean that it wasn't a valid expression, an authentic expression of Judaism. So very often what is determined as an authentic, or how to determine an authentic expression of Judaism, depends on the time and the place, as well as history, as well as mainstream opinion. But mainstream opinion can't always be relied on as well. For example, in this country, the majority of religious Jews are Reformed Jews. And so we could turn around and say that is the authentic expression of Judaism. But then we would have to turn around and say all the other branches of Judaism existent in this country today are not. And that's clearly inappropriate. So it's possible to have many different understandings of, or many different expressions of authentic Judaism. And that makes things much more complicated. Because if there can be multiple authentic expressions of Judaism, then who's to determine what is and what is not? If we go back to the 1700s, for example, we find the mitnagdim, the opponents who opposed Hasidism as it developed, wrote some scathing commentaries about the Hasidic community. They wrote that Hasidic Jews practice excessive immersion in the mikveh, and they practice ecstatic singing, overeating, overdrinking, destroying the Torah, behaving hypocritically, and resorting to any means necessary to collect large sums of money from the Jewish community. And so the mitnagdim, the opponents, were very strong in their criticism of the Hasidic community and tried to get them excommunicated. And in the excommunication document in 1772, the Hasidic Jews, the local Hasidic Jews to Vilna, were described as behaving like the vision of the wheels, in that they would perform cartwheels during their ecstatic prayers. They would literally cartwheel around the temple. And they would pray with such fervor, and they would pray forwards and backwards with such fervor, that they would smash their heads against the wall, and blood would flow. And people would place mats in front of particular learned rabbis who would shockle so hard to protect them. And the mitnagdim would turn around and say, this is totally inappropriate expression of Judaism. And yet, Hasidic Judaism today is 5% of the global Jewish community. So of course it's a valid expression of Judaism. So who gets to determine what is an authentic expression of Judaism depends very much on the time and the place. One final example is the Tashlich ritual, which I like to quote. The Tashlich ritual was something that was created by the people, not by the rabbis. Tashlich is where we cast off our sins on Rosh Hashanah. We take bread down to a river and we cast it into the river and have our sins essentially flow away. And the rabbis hated that custom because you had to carry on the festival, and they did not approve of that at all. They said that was breaking the festival. But it became so much a part of local custom that the rabbis turned around and said, fine, we'll give it blessings, we'll create liturgy for it, and so on. So sometimes, and this makes it even more complicated, sometimes it's the people and not the mainstream Judaism, not the clergy themselves, not the rabbis themselves, who determine what is an authentic expression of Judaism. Or perhaps one could say, when the people express their belief in what is authentic, then the rabbis help create liturgy to make it authentic. All of this is actually, I think, really important for understanding what it is to be a Reformed Jew, because I fear that many Reformed Jews have a sort of underlying sense of inauthenticity, assuming that the Orthodox community are authentic Jews and we are just doing our expression of Judaism without that sense of authenticity. But there's no question in my mind that Reform Judaism is a valid, authentic expression of Judaism and is a natural offshoot of Rabbinic Judaism. It's connected to it very strongly, but isn't always beholden to it. And this is really important because in Reform Judaism, we're sort of Rabbinic Jews and post-Rabbinic Jews, and that's rather interesting for me as a rabbi. So what does this mean for us? It means that we have to explore what is authentic about our Judaism. And so in our Introduction to Reform Judaism course, which starts this Sunday, this is the first topic. The Introduction to Reform Judaism course is open to everyone. It's open to members and to non-members. There is a fee for non-members to help cover costs. For members, you can come for two possible reasons, I guess. The first reason is to convert to Judaism. And if you are interested in conversion, then please be in touch with me as soon as possible. This course is a year-long course. It's a very intense course. It involves coming to prayer services and education and much more. And there are those who just want to learn more about Reform Judaism. Learn how many candles we light on Shabbat. How do we light the candles on Hanukkah? Why do we light the candles on Shabbat or on Hanukkah? What's the reason for the festivals? What do we do with rabbinic literature that we approve of or disapprove of? What do we do with rabbinic assumptions about gender and race and other things? How do we understand God? These are all some of the topics that we're going to be covering in the Introduction to Reform Judaism course, which starts this coming Sunday between 10 and 12. If you would like to join us, please click on the registration link below in this message, this pre-Shabbat message. We really hope that you can join us. It's going to be in person, especially. If you can't make it in person, then we've set up a Zoom link as well, but we really hope that you'll join us in person if possible. And talking of Zoom, this Shabbat morning, tomorrow morning, we're going to have our Shabbat service slightly differently. We're still going to have in-person service, of course. I'm going to be there in the sanctuary. But we're going to use the OWL software, and we're going to have Zoom participants very much present in the service. For those who were part of the community during COVID, you'll remember especially how intimate it became, how very powerful it was that we formed this intimate community on Shabbat evenings and Shabbat mornings, this Zoom community of prayer. And I think we missed something over the last few years of moving away from Zoom. And so, since our Shabbat morning attendance tends to be more online than in person, we thought, let's try actually having people present on Zoom. So I'm actually going to bring the large screen up. I'm going to bring this OWL software up so that people on Zoom can interact with us. You can share out loud the names of those you're remembering for Kaddish or those who you're praying for in the Mishaberach. So this is going to be a really interesting experiment for me. And I think this is very much an authentic expression of Judaism. There are those who say you can't use electricity on Shabbat. We covered that last week. You see the link. I believe you can. I believe I understand those who don't, and I really do understand those who wish to take a break from technology. But I believe that it's a mitzvah in this world where people are spread out so much and so often housebound. I believe it's really important to help them connect to the community in prayer through Zoom. So, please join us tonight, in person or streamed. We have a baby blessing tonight, a double baby blessing. So it's double the mitzvah, double the celebration. And please join us tomorrow morning for our Torah study, Vayechi, looking at favoritism, parental favoritism in Judaism. This is my Bar Mitzvah Torah portion many, many years ago. And then please join us in person or on Zoom, not streamed, in person or on Zoom for the Shabbat morning service. And if you'd like to join us for our first session for the Introduction to Reform Judaism course, please click on the link below to register. It would be wonderful to see you over Shabbat and indeed on Sunday. As well, I mustn't forget, as mentioning our Israel-Palestine dialogues, we really hope that you can join us. Members only, we hope you can join us for a really powerful discussion between members to give you space to process everything that's been happening in Israel, especially in the last 18 months or so. I hope to see you over Shabbat or over this weekend, and I wish you Shabbat Shalom.